Now, today our main focus of attention is the sexual reproduction in case of the flowering plants. Now, the reproductive organs of a typical plant are the flowers. So, flowers are said to be the reproductive organs of a plant. Now, a normal flower contains four major whorls, that is, the sepals, the petals, the androecium, and the gynoecium. Here you can observe it out. The outermost, the green color structure, the sepals, the colorful petals, the androecium, which is the male part, and the gynoecium, which is the female part. So the androecium is a male reproductive organ and the gynoecium is the female reproductive organ of a typical flower. So these structures play a huge role in it. Well, androecium is composed of the stamen. So a single unit of the androecium is basically said to be a stamen. And each stamen mainly consists of a thin stalk known as the filament and the two bilobed head known as the anther. And basically inside the anther, the pollen grains are mainly present. So the filament and the anther is basically attached with each other by means of some sort of the connective. So the anther and the filament are connected by the connective tissue. So there is a small connective tissue which attaches both the major structures. Now each anther lobe has the two pollen sacs. Sac means the bag-like structures which are filled with the pollen grains. These are the typical structures of the pollen grains. Now the pollen grains are minute in size and they take part for the purpose of reproduction. Furthermore, the gynoecium is mainly composed of one or more carpels. Each carpel consists of an ovary, a style, and the stigma. So if you observe it out very well from the top to the bottom, the topmost portion is said to be the stigma, then a long rod-like structure that is the style, and the lowermost is the ovary. So the stigma, the style, and the ovary. So stigma is the terminal part of the pistil. It is sticky, rough, and hairy. Why? So that the pollen grains can easily attach to it and form the pollen tube. And that pollen tube goes through the style and then the fertilization takes place at the ovary. The style is the thread-like structure which mainly consists or which mainly connects the stigma with the ovary. So the attachment is there in such a way that the proper fertilization can easily take place. Furthermore, the basal swollen part of the pistil is the ovary and it bears the ovules on a raised tissue, that is the placenta. So the ovary is not floating but it is attached on a raised tissue known as the placenta, and the ovary has the ovules. Now each ovule contains the female reproductive cell which is also said to be the ovum. Now for the pollen grains to come, there are various ways, and one of the way is the pollination. So the pollination is the way by which the pollen grains from the anther of a flower are transferred. Transferred from where to where? They are transferred to the stigma of the flower of the same species or of the closely related species. So that is said to be the pollination. Focusing on the types of the pollination, there are two major types of the pollination. They are the self-pollination and the other one is the cross-pollination. Now in case of the self-pollination, the pollen grains are transferred to the stigma of the same flower. So the transfer takes place between the same flower or to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. If at all the flower is there near the other flower, then the transfer can easily take place. While in case of the cross pollination, the pollen grains are transferred to the stigma of a flower of another plant of the same species. So in the video you can observe it out very well, or sometimes of a very closely related species also. So let us observe the advantages of this self-pollination. If at all the self-pollination occurs, then which are the various advantages? So focusing on the advantages of it. So self-pollination is a definite method of seed formation. So here the parental characteristics are preserved from one generation to the next. So flowers need not to be large or they need not to be attractive also for the pollen grains to come, and the scent and the nectar, that is the flower juice, it need not be produced by the flower to attract the insects also. So these are the various advantages. Now focusing on the disadvantage of it. Now if the self-pollination continues, it may decrease the vigor of the future generation of the species also. It means that the future generation will be having the same characteristics. They will not be having the different characteristics of the different flowers. The weak characteristics of the two species are not diminished, and the genetic improvement also does not take place. So the new generation will not be having the improved characteristics. Focusing on the advantages of the cross pollination, here we get more vigor offsprings, more strong offsprings. And through this method, new, improved and more adapted varieties can be produced. So new varieties and more varieties can be generated. Furthermore, into the disadvantage of it, now the cross pollination is dependent on the pollinating agents such as the wind, water and the insects. So it is not definite. It can take place at any time. Furthermore, the pollen has to be produced in very large quantities to ensure that yes, the pollination will be taking place. So as a lot of the pollen is destroyed in the transit, so for the pollination to occur, a lot of pollen grains are to be transferred. Furthermore, the flower has to form large showy petals to attract the insects. There are various agents for the cross pollination. Now let us observe it out, which are the various agents and how they show the respective characteristics for this purpose. So these are the insects, the wind, water. Basically flowers have certain characteristics which help in case of the pollination. So let us observe the characteristics of the wind pollinated flowers. So the flowers which are pollinated by wind, which are the various characteristics? Well, the flowers are basically small in nature. They do not produce the nectar, that is the flower juice or the scent. The flowers are not brightly colored. The pollen is produced in very large quantities as the wastage is substantiated. So large amount of wastage of the pollen grain is there. Their stamina long and of the protruding type. Protruding means it is coming outside, and they release the pollen into the air. And the stigmas are long and exposed to the air so that they can easily move into the wind. Let us observe the characteristics of the insect pollinated flowers. So when the pollination takes place by the insects, how the flowers are, which are the various characteristics, why the insects are attracted to the flowers. So let us observe the characteristics of it. Well, we can see that the insects are attracted towards the showy and the attractive flowers only. So very colorful, very good smelling flowers are basically attractive. So the flowers which emit the scent invites the insects. So the good smelling flowers are attracting the insects. And when the flowers are large or maybe in clusters, means in groups, they can also easily attract the insects. If the pollen grains of the flower are spiny, it can be easily carried by the insects also. And in case of the insect pollinated flowers, the stigma is also sticky in nature. Now let us understand how the fertilization will be taking place in case of the flowers. Now when the pollen grains mature, they escape and reach onto the stigma of the flower by means of the pollination. Now when they reach the stigma, what is the process? The pollen tube grows and enters the ovule through the micropyle. A small opening is there through which the male gametes will be entering inside. So the pollen tube enters the cavity of the ovary and then the ovule and finally penetrates the wall of the embryo sac. Sac means the bag-like structure. So the male gametes which are present inside the pollen tube, they will be entering inside the pollen, or I should say the embryo sac. Now the embryo sac mainly contains 8 nuclei. The 2 nuclei which are present in the center, they are said to be the polar nuclei. The 3 nuclei surrounded by the cytoplasm, they form the egg apparatus, which is basically towards the micropylar end and remains 3, and the remaining 3 on the other pole, they form the antipodal cells. So the uppermost the antipodal cells, the lowermost that is the egg apparatus. So the fertilization is the process of the fusion of the male gametes with the female gametes. And during this process, the pollen tube discharges the male cells into the embryo sac. So just as we have seen very well, the 2 male cells are present inside the embryo sac. So one of the male gamete fuses with the egg to form a diploid zygote, and that is said to be the syngamy. Syngamy is a process by which the fusion takes place. And the second male gamete fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus to form the endosperm nucleus. And since this process includes the 2 fusions, it is said to be the double fertilization. So basically 2 times the fertilization has taken place. So it is said to be the double fertilization. The endosperm nucleus is formed by the fusion of the 3 nuclei. And since it involves the 3 nuclei, it is said to be the triple fusion. Now let us see what happens after the fertilization, that is the post-fertilization events. So when we observe the post-fertilization events or the post-fertilization changes, the sepals and the petals, they fall and the zygote undergoes a series of mitotic divisions to form a multicellular embryo. So the sepals and the petals, they ultimately fall off and a multicellular embryo is formed. A fully mature embryo, which basically consists of the plumule or radicle and the 2 cotyledons, that is the stored food. The monocots have the 1 cotyledon and the dicots have the 2 cotyledons. The triploid primary endosperm nucleus divides through the series of the mitotic division to form a nutritive tissue, which is said to be the endosperm, which is full of food to provide the nourishment to the embryo. Now the maturity of the embryo is accompanied with many other changes. So a lot of changes they take place. The wall of the ovule, they change into the seed coat, of which the outer one is hard, known as the testa, and the inner one is the tegmen. Here we can observe it out very well, the testa and the tegmen. So thus the ovule changes to the seed and the ovary into the fruit wall.